Hello and welcome to the first episode. In this one we will cover extension methods. Now extension methods can be extremely useful and they are good to know, and you probably have seen them before. You have seen them in use, but you probably have not made them. It is difficult to figure out where to use them, and most people probably wouldn't bother to learn them in the first place because there's really no reason to do so. But once you get into these more advanced skills, you do need to know these extension methods, as they can be extremely useful. Now let's get started with a little example here. And first of all, a File Explorer or Solution Explorer right here, we have console Ep1, so this is the .NET Core console application. We have program.cs, and then we also have testclass.cs, okay? And then we have an extension library. So I will show you how to get those and create those extension methods both in the sort of standard class and then in a class in a library, okay? So let's get started with this simple one, okay? Now we are in the test class right here we are. And first of all, for the test class, what you can see is that the class itself is static. Okay, the class itself is static, and that is what you need to have. You have to have your class in which you hold your extension methods static. Now normally you probably have seen and you have used members that are static. Classes that are static are probably not so popular use case. This would probably the only useful one or common one that I can think of for these extension methods. It is a great thing to have, but not a common thing to have. So we have the class as static. This is very important. This is what you have to have. Now after that we have one extension method. Okay, only one extension method in this class. You can put as many as you want, of course, but this example only holds one. Now let's look at it. First of all, it obviously has to be public. Okay, it has to be public. Then it also has to be static. It must be static. You can't really have anything else in a static class anyway, so it has to be static. But if you don't put static, you will see an error right away, and you will put that in anyways. So after that, we need to have a return type. We need to have a return type. Okay, so we have our return type. In this case, it returns an integer. And then this is what makes it an extension method. This is how you do it. Actually, you do use the keyword this, okay? This. So you see, this is our first parameter. You could have more, but mind you, for the actual extension, the data that comes from the previous method from which it is extended, you can only have one, obviously, right? Because there's only one return. So we have this integer, right? Input. And basically what we do in this little example, we add one. We add one to the input, and then we return it. Okay, we add one to the input and we return it. So again, we have static class, static method, and then this, and then the actual variable declared, the whole thing. The keyword is essential. This is basically what makes it an extension method. Okay, so this takes in a number, adds one to it, and returns it. Now if we look at our execution right here, okay, we have first method. So let's take a look at it, and it basically just returns a 0. Okay, it returns a 0. So we add right here, you see, first method, then the extension method. So the return, you will see, it will be 1. Okay, now if we go to the extensions.cs, this is from the library, as you can see, extension library, extensions. Now, once again, we have static class, right? That's all great and fine and good. And in this case, we have a couple of methods, xd1 and xd2. Okay, now this one is pretty much the same. It just comes from a library-based class. Okay, it's exactly the same idea. We have this int input, and in this case, just so we can see the difference, we add 2. Okay, we add 2. Now the second one, however, is a bit different, okay? It's a bit different. The idea in general is the same, static int, okay, that's fine. But we have this, of course, we take in something from the previous method, but we also add a custom parameter, which is, as you can see now, is an integer. Simple integer with no this, okay? So you can add as many as you want in terms of parameters, but you generally do this only once, like that. Okay, so in this case, we take the input, which will be 0, and we add our custom number, and we return it. And if we look right here, we have this, you see right here, xt2, we provide 5. Now a final execution right here in this little example, I just want to show you that you can extend your extension methods with your extension methods. Okay, so we have x2 and then xt1. Okay, so now if I just quickly launch it, quickly launch it like that, you can see we have indeed 1, then 2, then 5, okay, 0 plus 5 is 5, and then we have 0 plus 5 plus 2 is 7. So it works quite perfectly. Now, a little piece of advice. Just because you know how to use them doesn't mean you have to use them. I would suggest to actually avoid them, because you might end up spending more time than you are saving time, and it might be quite difficult to read. Also, when it comes to libraries, you don't use the full namespace. As you can see, right here we have using extension library. Once you add that, you don't need, as you can see, add any additional name for the class. You just use it as it is, because it is a static class. You don't need to sort of re-reference it like that. So again, avoid them as much as possible. Just know that they do exist. You can get the source code for this one in the links below. There are several links provided with some good and great resources. You can go in there, check it out, and look forward for the next episode next week.